Better in Bucharest is a podcast about life experiences, leadership lessons, faith, and hope. This podcast will show you that you don't have to compromise your values to achieve happiness. My guest for today is Ben Jackson, who is the CEO of Bungii. Bungii is a Kansas-based company with a similar concept to ride-sharing apps like Uber and Bolt, but instead of transporting people, it transports people stuff. Ben, who is originally from Budapest, Hungary, dreamed up the idea after moving to the US for college and receiving constant requests from college students to borrow his car to move their things. Now, the company has raised $10 million in venture funding, has over 5,000 active drivers, and has scaled to over 100 cities in 9 major metros. So Ben, welcome. So good to have you today with us.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
So Ben, if I will ask you to describe yourself in 20 seconds, what would you say?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say I love Jesus. I love my family. I love solving tough problems, and I love working hard. And those two, the last two, really probably all of them combined, makes me prone for entrepreneurship.
And you are the CEO of Bungii. Maybe not too many Romanian kids know about Bungii, but can you tell us what Bungii is and how many markets are you on? And
yeah. So I'm willing to bet that most people listening have been there before. Where they've needed a pickup truck. Think like an American pickup truck, but they haven't had one. And whether you're buying a couch, online, or a mattress from the store, or a big screen TV, unfortunately, everything doesn't fit in a little Toyota Prius or even on the subway or on a tram. So Bungii is similar to Uber. I'm sure you have Uber.
Yeah.
It's like Uber, but for pickup trucks to help move big stuff, essentially. So with that being said, it all started, I was a senior in college. I drove a black 1999 Ford. It was a Ford Ranger, for if there's any truck nerds out there, but it's a tiny little truck. Most Americans don't even consider it a truck, because it was a little 4-cylinder. And one day I had 4 different people ask if they could borrow it. And I'd like to consider myself a nice guy, but after that 4th request, I was exhausted. I was laying in bed that night and I was probably more angry than I should have been. Probably still sweating from moving people's stuff before. I was like, there's got to be a better way here. And the next day I was in class, I was sitting next to a loose acquaintance of mine. And, I remember vividly, the teacher was talking and I kind of whispered him a problem, and he whispers back. And for some reason, he just kind of shrugs his shoulders and he's like, okay, Ben, let's start a business. And we had no idea what we were about to get ourselves into. But we walked out of the class that day with a simple concept: tap a button, get a truck. And, we've come a long way since then. I know a lot of times people say, it started, a big business like Apple or Google or Microsoft started in a garage. We were in college. We didn't even have a garage, right? So it started in a dorm room. And 5 years later, we have a team of 50 employees, about 5,000 drivers. We've raised over $10 million of funds from some of the top venture capitalists across the U.S. And we're operational in 30 different major markets in the U.S. And looking forward, we're probably 3 years away from having a nationwide infrastructure layer in place. And this includes drivers, this includes partners, this includes the platform, the tech, the logistical IP, really end-to-end value chain process and knowledge. And it will be one of the biggest sharing economy, gig economy footprints in the US.
Wow. You grew up in Hungary, and you said, I think I read this on your LinkedIn profile, that growing up in Hungary, that helped you in problem solving, social adaptation, and intellectual flexibility. Tell me more. Why?
Yeah. That's a great question, and I think a lot of it has to do um, with being in international spaces, being in international communities, and uh, we've all had times in our life where it's I don't know really what this person's culture is, or I'm not familiar with it, or I don't know what they're saying, or and it really it's a skill to learn how to connect to people, to understand them, to make friends, to read their body language that most Americans just don't have. And even from an international standpoint, being in a culture that isn't your own, you do have to think creatively, and you do have to kind of navigate it in a different way that a native would. And I think there are a lot of lessons that you can take from growing up in different cultures, and a lot of fundamental things like problem solving, that apply to both, that really helped me with entrepreneurship.
Wow. And now your business developed and it's on so many markets, but I'm curious about the beginning. How was the beginning? So from that idea then to actually starting the business, how was that beginning? Because in a way, it's nice when you hear this kind of story. Oh, I had this idea in college and then look, now I'm doing this great. But it's not easy. So I want to hear how was the first years? I don't know, personally, how was it for you?
It was one of the hardest years of my life, easily. And I guess I'll rewind a little bit here. And so it was, again, our senior year of college. We had this idea, and we said, okay, we need to get an app built, a mobile application, and to get it built the right way. It cost about $250,000. I don't know what that is in lieu but
you multiply by 4, so
okay,
yeah.
a lot of money, a lot of money.
Yeah,
and we're two college students. I'm some kid you lived in Budapest, Hungary, and our co-founders in Denver, and we're somewhere right in the middle, and we don't know anyone with deep pockets, or with a lot of money. So we're like, okay, what do we do? And to make a long story short, we were walking out of class one day, and there was a bunch of names that were etched in marble on the wall of our College of Business, and we're like, okay, we might be onto something here. And these are names of people who have donated a ton of money to the college. So we took a picture of it and we Googled it, and we Googled all these names for like 3 days straight, and we ended up sending maybe a fundraising letter out to maybe 150 people. And out of that, we probably got 20 different responses, and maybe got 7 different meetings and 3 offers. And the thing that was tough, though, is that all the offers were like, hey, this is just an idea right now. And we don't invest in ideas. You have to show us that people will actually pay for the service. So we're like, well, how do we do that? And they're like, take your truck this summer and go prove that this is something that's viable. And
this is what they said.
Yeah, this is what they said. And it's like, well, we had both good internships after college lined up, and a lot of the advice we got was don't do it. They're like, this is a crazy idea. You're going to spend your summer hauling around people's junk in your pickup truck and sweating when you could be going to the corporate world and start. And it's like, yep, we're going to do it. And again, a lot of people said that we're dumb or stupid and we're foolish, and we might have been, right? Because it was a long shot. But that summer we ended up doing almost 200, 300 deliveries in a small town of Manhattan, Kansas, where our college was. So that validated the idea. And then out of that, we got an initial investment, and we spent the next 7-8 months in development of software development, trying to get the app out. And, so by the time our launch date was ready, we had foregone these internships where a lot of people said we shouldn't do it. We weren't making any money. I mean, I drove for Uber, during the nights and the evenings just to make ends meet during that time. We had waited for 8 months, and then finally we're on the week of launch week, right? And Harrison, he's Bungee's co-founder, and I, we were thinking, okay, it's going to be amazing. We're going to do thousands of deliveries and we're going to make, $100,000 in our bank account by the end. And, we're going to ride off into the sunset in a non-romantic way, of course. And by Friday of that week, we ended up doing 3 deliveries for a total of $39 in our business bank account. And it was crushing. And, I remember sitting there on that Friday. It was Friday afternoon, and we were just sitting there in silence. And it was like, what do we do? Right. And, maybe this wasn't supposed to happen. Maybe, we just let this huge investor down. Maybe this isn't something so we're sitting there in silence, just both questioning everything. And, one of us asked to the other person, well, what's next? And, it was a pivotal moment because we had 2 options, right? We could say option 1 is to say, you know what, we're too young, or we've never done something like this before, or we don't understand how to, grow a business, or we don't, there's 1,000 excuses. There's always 1,000 excuses, or option 2 is we put our heads down, we get to work and we figure it out. And, obviously we chose option 2, despite, the soul crushing reality of not having our expectations anywhere met. And, thankfully I can say that, 4 years later, we did figure it out. And, there are obviously new problems today. There's bigger problems. But I think that's a pattern, is just of figuring out how to solve problems when they occur.
And, you were married back then?
Yes.
How was it? How was it? Because I see that you and Amber are all in together. How was?
I think that was probably one of the most important things about entrepreneurship. And before we decided, so I was married right before Bungii started. So I spent the last summer of university, or the last year of university, married. And again, the plan was for me to go to the corporate world, start climbing the corporate ladder. And, along with that comes decent money, a lot more than hauling people's stuff around in the back of your pickup truck all summer. And I remember sitting down with Amber, my wife, and I just said, hey, listen, most people would think this is a dumb idea. And most people would say, let's not give this up. This dream of the corporate world and the money. It's like, but I think I want to give this a shot. But I'm not going to give it a shot if you're not all in on it too. And she's like, essentially it was let's bet on ourselves. Let's make an investment in ourselves. And I don't know if this will translate, but in America, there's something called sugar daddies, which is okay. You guys, okay. So
sugar daddies.
Yeah. So the joke was Amber was my sugar mama for the first year and a half, and she was a waitress and paid our bills because for the first 2 or 3 years the company wasn't making any money. We couldn't take a salary, so she went all in. We made the decision ahead of time, and I think that Bungii would not exist today if it wasn't something that she fully backed and fully supported.
That's amazing, Ben. So when you build it, Bungii, what are the core values of Bungii? What's behind? What's the engine?
Yeah, that's another great question. I'm actually, I should have these memorized, but I have them pretty close. But I'm just pulling up right now on my phone. So that the first value of Bungii is that we're curious, and we ask why. We figure out reasons why it didn't work. We explore solutions, and we never stop learning. And I think that that's one of the most important things about problem solving is being curious about why things are working and why things aren't working. Another one is we persevere. We push through brick walls. We believe in the power of grit. We're tenacious about solving problems. So So curiosity, problem solving, curiosity and perseverance equals solving problems. And if you keep on chipping away at a problem long enough, if you persevere, the problem will most likely get solved. You'll most likely figure it out. We have 3 more. One is we communicate. So we ask for help. We listen with curiosity. We discuss ideas, roadblocks, and solutions. We kindly argue. So I think this is key because everybody has a different perspective and everybody sees the business in a little bit slightly different way. And in order for you to make the best decisions as a business, you have to talk it out. And both sides have to have open channels of communication. As CEO, I will be losing if Bungii ever gets to a point where someone feels like they can't come up to me and criticize a decision, or at least maybe not criticize, but at least push me and say, well, why are we doing this? I don't think this makes sense. And we'll have a conversation about it. And a lot of times, we'll be arguing, in a conference room about a strategic decision. And people who aren't familiar with the business will say like, oh, like they must hate each other, must be mad at each other. But, we'll go out of the conference room, best buddies, slap each other back. And that's, I think that process of iteration of kindly arguing is extremely key. 2 other things, 2 other values. We're customer obsessed. We work tirelessly for our customers. We solve their problems and earn their trust. We delight them. So understanding what your customers want and creating a service that fulfills their problems obviously is key to being in business, because without customers, you don't have money. Without money, you don't have a business. Then lastly, we do the right thing. We start from humility. We act with bold integrity, and we drive to make a positive impact around us. And, I think that I think there's 3 core parts of successful businessmen. One is being smart. One is working hard, and one is integrity. And if you're not smart, but you have integrity and you work hard, you're working on the wrong things, and it's going to be hard to get traction. If you are smart but you don't work hard and you do have integrity, you're just not going to get anywhere because you're not working hard. And then lastly, if you're smart and you work hard but you don't have integrity, it's going to catch up to you eventually. It always does. It always does. And you'll get the reputation of, don't do business with this guy. He's not honest. And your reputation is the most important thing you have. So again, smart, working hard, and integrity. I think those are the 3 keys for longevity and being successful in business.
Can you keep it closer?
Yeah, sir.
Perfect. You also you said in a recent article that if you're in it for money or power or fame, you're going to lose. And also you said you have to find something bigger than yourself to get you through the tough times. So why are you in for? What you're in for?
That's another great question. So I'll answer the first one, the first question first. So I think entrepreneurship is glamorized these days. Do you know what I mean when I say glamorized?
Yeah.
It's glamorized these days, and it's easy to look at Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, or Evan Spiegel, the founder of Snapchat, and just think, wow, they have it so easy, But, we weren't there 10, 15, 20 years ago, when they were in the dorm room solving problems, taking punches to the face. And I think we don't see the full picture of entrepreneurship. And I like to kind of compare entrepreneurship. In movies when there's action movies, there's 2 people fighting, and one guy gets punched right in the face, and then the camera's kind of behind him, and it's zooming on his face, and there's blood coming out of his mouth, and then he a lot of times he'll spit out a tooth, and then he'll get back up.
Like Rocky.
Yeah, exactly. And then he'll like look back at his opponent and he'll smile.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like that is entrepreneurship, where it's not, sipping margaritas on yachts. It's literally getting punched in the face, spitting your tooth back out, getting back up, looking at the problem, looking at the opponent, and smiling. And if you're doing entrepreneurship because you want power or fame or success, you're not going to last. You're not going to last. And it takes, and I think that's something that, especially with social media influencers and entrepreneur influencers, it's like, oh, look at my cars, look at my jets, look at my house. And it's like, if that's why you're in it for the wrong reasons, and you're going to lose. And I think that's what a lot of people miss, a lot of young entrepreneurs miss. And I wish I could have told myself that too, how hard it is to be successful.
Would you start again if you had a experience from now?
I would think a lot harder about it. But yes, I would. But it'd be a really tough decision.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the idea of getting punched in the face, and you mentioned in the same article that you are really good at getting punched in the face. Tell me more. It's like a natural trait, or you develop this power to.
I think that at the end of the day, it's a decision, and it's a decision to get back up and keep chopping away at it. And I don't want to I don't want to convey that it's only entrepreneurs who have. I mean, this happens to everybody, right? I mean, for college students, it's you work really hard, you get a bad grade on a test. Okay, I'm going to do better. Then you study 3 times as much, and you still get a bad grade on a test. That's tough. That's getting punched in the face. I mean, when it comes to raising money, it's people just say no. And then you have a great meeting with someone. You think it's going to be awesome. You think they're going to help, and then nope, sorry, no. And I mean, there's so many examples of getting punched in the face where it's. I mean, this applies to everybody. I mean, I'm sure that in the corporate world, it's you work very hard on a project. You're really excited to show this to your boss, and then he says, nope, this isn't it. This is not what we were thinking. Start over. I mean, there's relationships, there's relational, financial, emotional. There's a lot of different forms of it, but I think at the end of the day, it just comes back down to how badly do you want it, right? And your level of grit and your level of saying, okay, I'm going to double down again for the 3rd, 4th, 5th time, and keep working at it, even though most at this time would have quit.
Do you have any mentors right now?
I do. I have a couple different ones.
Can you tell me in what it's like, professionally or personally, or?
Yeah. I a lot of the I think so. Different people. This works differently for different people, right? So I don't want to say that there's a blanket rule of this is how mentorship should work. But what I've found the most success with in my life is splitting my life into almost different categories or different segments, and then finding a mentor who I love the way they do that segment of life. So for example, my business mentor is different than my marriage or my marriage mentor, which is different than. I mean, I don't really have a physical mentor, but
I understand.
Yeah. So I mean, most importantly, I have more of like a spiritual mentor, and also part he also helps with marriage stuff, and then I have a couple of different business mentors as well, and I think that's key is one person usually can't do everything, and I think if they say they do, they probably don't. But I think it's key is splitting your life into segments and saying, in this segment of my life, who do I want to, what type of life, who do I want to imitate, I guess I'll say, and then pursuing that person.
Do you recommend any book for the college students that might hear this story and, I don't know, want to take a leap of faith? Or,
yeah.
Or maybe to help them think creatively or solving problems.
Yeah. There's a book. It's called 0 to 1, and it's really, really interesting because it's talking about creating essentially, and the premise of the book is, it's hardest to go from 0 to 1. It's easier to go to 2 to 3 and 3 to 4 because you're iterating on something that already exists. But going from nothing to something is the hardest thing to do. It's by Peter Thiel. So 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, and it's a great book for people who are inclined to create. And again, I mean, this isn't just entrepreneurship, right? It's all different types of creation, artistic. I mean, I won't list them all, but all different types. So 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
So Ben, we are at the end. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. The final question is, what would you tell to the Romanian college students who wants to start a business, or who will listen to this story and say, "Man, this is inspiring. I want to take this road"?
It will probably be one of the hardest things that you do, but at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it. And I wouldn't consider Bungii at this point to be a success yet. We still have big mountains to climb ahead of us, but it's 100% absolutely been worth it. And you'll grow more than you know as a person. As a person, I've grown a tremendous amount in my faith. I've grown in my marriage, and you'll be better for it. So again, I think it'll be very challenging. It'll be very difficult. Know that ahead of time. But if you've made a decision that you're in, and if you stick with it, it'll pay off for the rest of your life.